he usually had some choice things to say to the umpire. And those choice words made their way into this section as well. So we figured out it wouldn't work. We tore the glass down, we built this area. It's one of our most popular seating areas. Now what I usually do at this stop of the tour is run through a bunch of the history for you. And the history starts in 1901. Boston was a charter member of the American League. We were not known as the Red Sox back then. We went by many different names. Boston Americans, Boston Pilgrims, Boston Puritans, Boston Somersets. Whatever name seemed to fit at the time, that's what we used. And we did not play our games here. We played a couple of miles down the road at the Huntington Avenue grounds on the site of what is now Northeastern University. If you happen to tour Northeastern's campus, you'll come across a statue of the greatest pitcher of that era, Cy Young, standing at the site of the actual pitcher's mound for the first World Series ever played in 1903. Won, by the way, by the Boston Americans over the Pittsburgh Pirates 5-3. Back then, World Series best of 9 as opposed to best of 7 today. 1907, our owner, John Taylor, decided to change our name. And he called us the Boston Red Stockings. Simply because we got new uniforms that year that happened to include red stockings. Well, that name really didn't fit on a newspaper headline. It certainly didn't fit on a uniform. So we shortened it to Red Sox, S-O-C-K-S. And finally to Red Sox, S-O-X. Simply because the R-E-D fit nicely on one side, the S-O-X fit nicely on the other side. And in so doing, folks, we incurred the wrath of every English teacher in New England for all time. Well, in 1910, John Taylor decided that the Huntington Avenue grounds was too small. So he acquired a parcel of land in the Fenway section of Boston, which is right here, from the Fenway Realty Company, which happened to be owned by his father. And he proceeded to build a ballpark pretty much as you see in front of you. Now, does anybody know what the word Fenway or Fens means? It means swamp. This is all swampland. We had to fill it in before we could build a ballpark. And on April 20th, 1912, Fenway Park officially opened, with the Red Sox defeating the New York Highlanders 7-6 in 11 innings. Now, I don't expect you guys to know anything about the New York Highlanders, because they were so embarrassed by that defeat that shortly thereafter they scurried back to New York and changed their name. Became the New York Yankees. So you could say that we've been beating those guys in this place since day one. Now that news would have been front page on every paper in New England, except for an event that occurred 5 days prior to the opening of the ballpark. Anybody know what event I'm referring to? Exactly, the sinking of the Titanic 5 days before this place opened. Just to put it into historic perspective for you. Admission to the ballpark on opening day cost a whopping 25 cents. And the ceremonial first pitch that day was thrown out by Boston Mayor John Honey Fitzgerald. And the only reason I mention that is that he happened to be the grandfather of our 35th president, John Fitzgerald Kennedy. So you guys didn't know that you'd get some non-baseball related useless trivia on this tour, right? Well, the Red Sox were very good in those days, winning championships in 1912, 1915, 1916, and 1918. We were the best team in all of baseball. We were a dynasty. No team came close. And then we decided, you know what? Not really fair that we win all the time. We decided to let some other teams catch up and experience what winning a championship is all about. So we took a little self-imposed vacation.
Self-imposed vacation.
Little did we realize that vacation would last 86 long years before we would get to the championship in 2004. Well, some people call that little vacation a curse. And they call it specifically the curse of Bandito. Sounds good. Really accurate. It really happened. 1919, we were owned by a man named Harry Frazee. He liked baseball, but his real passion was producing Broadway musicals. Except he didn't have a whole lot of cash to do it. And he had one he was dying to produce. It was entitled No No Nanette. How many of you have heard of No No Nanette? A couple? How many of you have seen No No Nanette? My point exactly. No No Nanette went no nowhere. Nobody went to see it. But to finance No No Nanette, decided to auction off his best player to the highest bidder. A man named George Herman Ruth, otherwise known as Babe. See, Harry Frazee didn't like Babe Ruth. When Babe Ruth was in Boston, he was the best left-handed pitcher in baseball. But Babe wanted to play every day. He actually wanted to hit. Harry Frazee said, you're the best pitcher in baseball, we need you to pitch. But also Harry Frazee didn't like Babe Ruth's lifestyle. See, Babe used to like to go out on the town every so often. Smoke a few cigars, drink a few beers, eat a lot of hot dogs. Harry Frazee couldn't get him out of Boston fast enough. So the highest bidder back in 1919, usually the same team that bids the highest for free agents today, the New York Yankees. So he sold Babe to the Yankees for $100,000. But he also sold off 15 other members of those championship Red Sox teams. 13 of them to the Yankees, 2 to the St. Louis Cardinals for another $25,000. He took all of that money, poured it into no-no net, left the Red Sox and Fenway Park in shambles. Decade of the 20s, the Red Sox went from the best team in baseball to the worst, finishing dead last 8 times, next to last twice. The Yankees went the other direction, obviously. Now in May of 1926, does everybody see the left field stands that jut out into the field a little bit, right past the third base dugout? Well, in May of 1926, those seats were made of wood. And a fan came to a game smoking a big long cigar. At the end of the game, he left that big cigar on one of the seats, burned them all to the ground. Well, the owner didn't have the money to replace those seats, so he went out to a hardware store, bought a rope, and roped the area off. For the next 7 years,
Oh my God.
third baseman and left fielders became quite adept at jumping over that rope and catching fly balls. Now, rumor has it that the fan who left the lit cigar on one of the seats came from New York. Things did turn around, folks. 1933. The team in the ballpark was sold for a then record $1.2 million to a multimillionaire from South Carolina named Thomas Austin Yockey. He was out looking for a 30th birthday present for himself. Settled on the Red Sox in Fenway Park. See, Mr. Yockey acquired his great wealth the old-fashioned way. He inherited every dime. But when he came to Boston, he saw that he had 3 things he had to do right away. And the first thing he had to do was remove those burned-out seats, and he replaced them with the blue grandstand seats that stretch from the Gulf side all the way around the park to right field. And you see some construction going on in right field. What we do every off-season is pull several sections of those wooden seats out, send them out to be stripped down, finished, repainted, bring them back in right before the season, put them back in their same exact locations. You get a chance to sit in some of those seats in left field towards the end of the tour. Now the second thing that Tom Yockey did was he built the center field bleachers. And we also had some construction in center field this offseason. We put in those 3 giant brand new video screens. And the third and most significant thing that Tom Yockey did is staring me right in the face in left field. All 37 feet 2 inches tall, 231 feet wide. He built that wall so tall and so wide for a couple of reasons. Prior to it being there was a 10-foot high fence.
People probably look
when a home run was hit over that fence, it would land on Lansdowne Street and break a storefront window. The store owners were happy to have Tom Yockey in town. They got together, presented him with a large bill to replace all those broken windows. But what got Tom Yockey really angry was that during games he noticed fans were taking picnic baskets and lounge chairs, climbing up to the rooftops, watching the Red Sox play for free. Not going to happen anymore. He built the tallest and widest wall he could and painted it blue. He covered it with all kinds of white advertisements. Well, a couple of years later, his wife Jean said, "Tom, I can't stand looking at all those white ads. We need to paint the wall." So she went out and selected a shade of green that she felt most nearly complemented the green of the grass. And thus was born the famous Green Monster. Now you guys notice I did not say Green Monster, because as you're well aware, we in Boston don't pronounce the R's at the end of our words.